Hello and welcome to American History Notes. We're going to discuss a couple of things today, including the Viceroyalty of New Spain, some important things you should know about American history. So let's begin. While on an expedition between 1577 and 1580, circumnavigating the globe, that's going around the world, Englishman Sir Francis Drake sails up the California coast as far as San Francisco Bay. It's not until 1615 that French explorer Samuel de Champlain reaches the eastern extension of Lake Huron and becomes the first European to see the Great Lakes. In 1528, a shipwrecked Spanish conquistador, Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca, became the first European we know of to set foot in Texas. A member of the Narvaez expedition, he was later enslaved by a Native American tribe of the upper Gulf Coast and explored what are now the U.S. states of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona on foot from coastal Louisiana to Sinaloa, Mexico, over a period of roughly 6 years. He returned to Europe in 1537, where he wrote about his experiences in a work called La Relation, the Tale. The Viceroyalty of New Spain was the name given to the territories of Mexico and all or parts of California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Texas. Administered by a viceroy or representative of the King of Spain from Mexico City, this area was considered Spain's property from 1525 to 1821. After success in throwing the Muslims out of Spain, the Catholic Church was operated as an arm of the government and seen as a great colonizing force. With Catholic doctrine that one is born again by baptism, and with the baptism of infants and mass conversions, this was the main method by which Spanish and European culture was introduced. The oligarchy that made all decisions in New Spain was composed only of peninsulares from the Spanish mainland, while the Creole, native-born Americans of European ancestry, mestizo, mixed Indian and Spanish, and the mulatto, mixed African and Spanish, had virtually no decision-making power or ability to lift themselves up by education. For the most part of the existence of New Spain, it was based on a strict caste system. The Spanish colonies of the New World did not have the self-governing rights of the English colonies. The Viceroyalty of New Spain was the principal source of income for the Spanish government, and therefore extremely important. The Spanish soldiers who helped conquer New Spain were paid off with vast tracts of land and oppressed the native inhabitants greatly. Added to the smallpox, measles, and typhus epidemics, all sedentary populations of Americans came close to being wiped out, with empty villages and untended fields the result. The European Spanish had gained some immunity from these diseases, which the native inhabitants were helpless to fight. The Catholic Church attempted to completely erase old beliefs, but in the remote and sparsely populated regions of the plains and deserts of North America, this was impossible to achieve. With regard to the areas that eventually became the United States, Spain didn't begin colonizing California until the mid 1700s, according to some historians. Around 1540, Coronado led a massive expedition to attempt to discover 7 cities of gold in the region of New Mexico today. This was an absolute failure, with the unintended consequence of leaving over 1,000 horses behind, which ran wild and are credited with being the ancestors of many of the horse populations of the western United States, changing the Native Americans' means of transportation and warfare forever. New Mexico did not see a permanent Spanish settlement until 1598 under Governor Oñate. Arizona, too, was part of New Spain and was visited by Coronado's expedition. Texas also became a part of New Spain. The Spanish and the French vied for control of Florida and, in some respects, Louisiana, with the French in the latter being more influential. The Spanish never gained total control of Florida, however, being hindered by French colonies to the west and British colonies to the north. The conflict between the Spanish and the French in Florida was a heated one, even including the beheading of a defeated French force by the Spanish in an attempt to secure a foothold. The important thing to remember is that Spain considered most of what would become the Western United States as its own personal property, administered directly from the crown through viceroys, but operated on a day-to-day basis by a few wealthy landowners operating gigantic land grants. For the common man, there was no freedom or access to power or self-government. For the Indian, the Native American, there was either assimilation or extermination, and for the African, there was slavery or poverty. By no standard of measure was the Spanish Empire of the New World a humane or just entity for anyone but the wealthiest. This is important in that the system that ran New Spain was not designed for a progressive increase in self-government, but was made to be a permanent possession and a cash cow for the Spanish king. With regard to the North American possessions of Spain, the landowners and the Catholic Church had more of an influence on daily lives than the King of Spain. The remoteness of North American settlements in a day lacking the kind of communication and transportation technologies we have made, the American colonies of Spain, at least in northern reaches, was Spanish in name only. The Native American of the Southwest and Western North America did not face the domination that those in Mexico and further south faced. We'll discuss the French briefly next time. I really enjoyed this, and I thank you for watching.